And thank you so much. So, welcome everyone. I'd love to introduce you to my colleague, Robin McKay, who's joining us from Canada.
And we pronounce it McKay.
Oh, McKay, pardon, and thank you.
Yes.
And
it's
Robin,
more important to my hubby.
Remind us what part of Canada you're joining from.
So I live in Red Deer, Alberta, which is towards the west coast. I found when I came up here as an American, I didn't know any of this, so I'm assuming you guys don't either. But if you know where Calgary is, I'm about an hour north of Calgary.
Great.
North of Montana.
Great. And I'm Kelly Mount, for those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting. And I'm in the Louisville, Kentucky area. And let us see, Robin, let me go ahead and put our share screen up. If you'd.
Okay. There. Okay. So welcome everybody. We've taken a little bit different focus from our faculty group and the study group after the first of the year, and not following the books per se, but we're doing self-help, and we're telling stories and sharing. And so Kelly and I have coordinated for tonight to kind of focus on the bladder flow for both you guys, as well as she's going to be sharing a story with a horse. So we're starting 2023 in that direction, and today we're going to start with the self-help bladder flow. And there we are. So I want to combine it with the breath, the 36 breaths. And I'm assuming most of you have done that, but 36, part of the meaning and focus of that is 3 + 6 = 9. And so that is letting go of the past, basically, so you can move forward in the future. And it's sometimes difficult to count 36, so we have different ways of helping people do that. And this is essentially a 4-step flow for self-help. So I'm going to have you guys breathe 9 breaths with each step. And as always, we start with the exhale so that we make room, make space to receive. So what I would like you guys to do is kind of close your eyes and follow through and relax, drop your shoulders, and begin to relax. And I want you to take your left fingers and put it on the right side of your neck. I'm gonna have to stand way back here, I think, for you to, I don't think I can get my picture big enough to show my whole body, but it's crossing your hand across the spine so that your fingers are touching between the side of the neck and the spine to touch the right 12, as in the picture you're seeing on the front. And then we'll take our right hand and we're going to put it at the base of the spine. I need a step stool here on our tailbone. And we'll hold that for 9 breaths. So close your eyes, drop your shoulders, exhale, and count your breaths. The 12 came into this world meaning not my will, but thy will. And it involves submitting our personal consciousness to the direction of the universal mind. And And now leaving your left hand where it is, this will be the anchor step. So the left hand will remain here on your neck for the entire flow. And I want you to move now your right hand down to the right number 8. And I'll try and get my picture in on this. I'm just doing it through the pictures across the top. You guys can't really see me, can you?
We can see Kelly.
Okay, good. So the center of the back of the right knee, the center 8. And 8 came into the universe meaning rhythm, strength, and peace. And now take your right hand and move it down to the outside of your ankle. It's that soft area between the ankle bone and the heel. Good, Kelly, thank you.
It's easy to just cross your ankle over your knee to hold that outer ankle.
So 16 came into the universe meaning the basis of all human activities, and it helps us break down existing forms for new ones. And now move your right hand down so that you're sandwiching your little toe between your fingers. The little toe is where the bladder function energy ends and the kidney function energy begins. So this is the last step of our flow. Now you can relax. I always like to take a minute and just kind of be aware of my body and what I notice that's different after doing one of the flows. This is really a wonderful way to let go of your day and to relax before you begin to work on your animal or another person, to let your stuff go so that you're relaxed and you can allow yourself to just be with whichever being you're going to be with next. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much. And you know, you can always, if any of these steps feel uncomfortable, substitute holding either index finger to help with that energy of the bladder flow. And the bladder flow is not only one of my favorite flows to receive, it's also one of my favorite flows to share with animals, particularly if they have projects with fear or anxiety. And so, oh, hang on just a second. There we go. I wanted to show the page of the bladder flow on the dog in Adele's book, A Jinshinjutsu for You and Your Animal Companions. And you can see on the dog, it's a simple 4-step flow, but I love sharing this flow with horses. And we have a few adaptations that we use when we give this flow on a horse. So here are the safety energy locks from Adele's book on the horse. And I drew a line showing how the bladder flow clears the entire back. It literally opens up the flow from the head to our toes. So when we were holding, we held that little toe as the last step. And we don't have the opportunity to hold a little toe on the horse. So often the adaptation that I choose is to simply cup my hand over the hoof. And I do have a few photographs of me giving a horse a bladder flow that I would like to share. And I'd also like to share a story with you about using the bladder flow with a horse. But let's just take a look at the steps of the flow first. So step 1 on the dog, Adele showed 12 in the center of the neck and 25 in that area, kind of what we talk about the sit bones, which is easy to do on a dog. But when you have a large animal, it's hard to go from 12 to 25. I don't know. I grew up in the 80s. I'm a 77 model. And I don't know if you remember the cartoon, Mr. Gadget. Do, 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 Inspector Gadget. So I don't have those go-go gadget arms. So our adaptation for horses is holding safety energy lock 12 and 23. So it would be on the center of the neck and just over the top of the spine, just over the center of the rib cage, but close to the spine. So, and safety energy lock 23 is where that kidney flow flows through and where the saddle naturally rests on a horse's back. So sometimes this area gets very sore. And just like in that picture of the meridian, the bladder meridian, often horses or animals in general can have difficulty with gait patterns. So sometimes what might look like lameness, say in the left front foot, is sometimes coming from the right hind foot. And so the bladder flow helps take care of top half of body and bottom half of body so that everything flows together in a more normal cadence. And so again, 12 and 23, and then we just flow the hands from 23 to 25. And we just keep going down the back of the body. And we do have, of course, hand positions that are recommended in the book. However, sometimes we have to adapt to what's possible in the moment, especially when working with a large animal. And I have found over time, we can then go from 25 to 8. But I like doing an adaptation of the bladder flow where I hold 23 and 8 on the same side of the body. And I'll talk about this a little bit more when I come back into my little story that I have to share. But I find that horses really enjoy holding that area of 23 on the back with safety energy lock 8. And 8 really helps to relax any muscle tension anywhere in the body. And the level of tissue that our bladder flow supports is our muscles. So 23 is our safety energy lock that supports the bladder and kidney function energy in the body. So this step, holding 23 and 8, really helps to regenerate the body and all of the muscle tissue. So then we're just coming down the back of the leg, holding 8 and 16. And there you can see where I'm holding 16 and 6, where I'm just cupping my hand over the back hoof. And sometimes horses are conditioned to pick up their back legs when you touch their back legs because they're used to having their feet cleaned. And so sometimes if they offer to strike or kick or lift a foot, it's okay to skip any step that they're uncomfortable with. The horse that I'm showing here was completely comfortable with me holding his legs. So I just know that with the animals, you can adapt. And any step of the flow is the flow itself, particularly that anchor step where you hold 12 and 23 or 12 and 25. So I wanted to share a story with everyone about using the bladder flow on a horse. I have had the most incredible opportunity to work with a now 22-year-old stallion. And, I live here in Kentucky in horse country, and there's a breeding farm not far from my home. And it's been 4 years now. It's hard to believe that I've been working with this stallion for 4 years on a weekly basis. And the farm manager was a client of mine. And this stallion, at some point, lost the function of his back legs and had to be rushed to a veterinary hospital nearby. And they weren't really able to determine what caused the instability in his hind legs. And so over time, the veterinarians were able to help him structurally, but they were afraid to do any sort of invasive procedure that might make the condition worse. So when he returned home, the owner and the trainer were looking for some sort of therapy for him, although they were concerned that things like chiropractic care or osteopathic manipulation might cause more instability. And so my client mentioned, well, you should have Kelly come and share a Jinshin session with him. It, you know, you may not feel like there's a benefit, but there will definitely be no harm. And so that's how it all started. And so I came and I offered him the bladder flow, and it has been his favorite and the one that we consistently use week after week. And in our human Jinshin classes, there's a special flow for regeneration, and it starts with 23 and opposite 8. So it's really hard. There's no way that I could hold 23 and opposite 8 on this large, 16-hand stallion. So what I did was this adaptation of the bladder flow where I hold 12 and 23, 23 and 25. And instead of going 25 to 8, I simply just pause with my hand on 23 and move on down to safety energy lock 8, holding that first step that helps regeneration. And I often give a main central flow. And if anyone is interested in the adaptation for the main central flow on animals, Adele has an amazing chart that shares 4 different variations of the main central that you can use with all animals. And so these are often the flows that I give, but I have found this stallion has had an amazing transformation and is, 4 years later, is sound and stable. He's still able to be bred. And it's just been a really remarkable experience to see how powerful this bladder flow can be, particularly for structural projects, anything to do with the muscles, anything to do with anxiety. And it just promotes the overall regeneration of the muscles and of the spine. So I just wanted to share that story with everyone. So generally, we've started this self-help sharing and storytelling, and we also want to make a little time for you to ask your questions, whether it be a cat or a dog or a large animal like a horse. But the art can be applied to any creature that will allow you to be with it. And sometimes when an animal is frightened or scared, we can simply hold, like we did at the beginning of our session tonight, and hold the bladder flow on ourselves. And you'll be amazed at the calming effect that it has on the animal that you're with. We welcome any questions that you have. You're welcome to type a question in the chat or raise your hand. And let's see, Carrie, would you like to unmute?
Hi, that was great. And I just wanted to share that Mary Lutton and I had done a lot of work with the rescue horses in Ashland, Oregon, at Equimore Foundation. And when we were doing that, we also found that adaptation of 23 and 8 worked really nicely, and it just felt more comfortable to just hang out there. I'm also working on my pony right now, and he really likes to hang on to the 23 longer instead of switching both down to the tailbone and to the back of the leg there. And then also, just to reiterate what you were saying, Kelly, is that yesterday working on a golden retriever, I did the horse adaptation where I did the 23 instead of going from the 12 to the 25 to the, the neck to the tailbone. I stopped in the middle of his body also and continued on from there. So, it's fun to try it in different ways, I think, no matter what size the animal is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carrie, for sharing that. And Carrie Voorhees is also one of our faculty members for Jinshin Jitsu for you and your animal companions. And she's a long time expert dog trainer. So if you have questions about dogs and the use of Jinshin Jitsu, she's a wonderful person to ask. So I'm just looking in the chat and seeing if there are any questions. Does anyone use the bladder flow regularly with their animal? I haven't met an animal yet that doesn't like to receive the bladder flow. Adele? I thought I saw you peek your hand
Yeah,
up.
I was just thinking, for me, well, my whole journey into the work started with a dog with bad diarrhea, and right to tighten the right 8 tightens diarrhea. So everything started for me with the bladder flow. But the bladder also helps us let go of fear. And so much of my time is spent working in rescue situations. And boy, it's my go-to. It's just such an exquisite flow. And I don't know, it's so easy. It's all on one side, and I think it is the single flow that I believe is the most expedient for getting animals adopted and out of the shelters.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And Adele always shares the story of her collie dog, Amitai. And when she says diarrhea, she means explosive, uncontrollable, all the time. And the bladder flow was really the one that was hugely successful in helping. So, thank you. Let's see, Mary. You'll have to unmute, Mary. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say I use it all the time with my puppies. And once Adele taught me the 23 step, I use it on people, myself, the animals. I use it to calm the puppies down. And big dogs, when you can get a 2-year-old golden retriever to go from up here to flat out, something's happening. But one of my favorites.
Thank you, Mary. It is so important for us to share our testimonies. There are so many people who are not familiar with Jinshin Jitsu, and that it's possible to share it with our animal companions. And so the more opportunities we have to share, the more people understand how powerful it is. Susan, feel free to unmute.
Hi. Hi, Adele. I just wanted to share, I'm very, very, very new to Jin Shinjitsu, but I heard Adele's story with her dog, because I have a dog that has really bad IBD. So we have constant blood and mucus and diarrhea. So the bladder flow is where I've started, and I do it. My dog loves it, and it's just, for a beginner, it's really easy, and the my dog loves it. So I'm very grateful.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Susan. And with your accent, I'm guessing you're not from Kansas.
No, I'm in Australia. I'm in Brisbane, Australia.
Beautiful. Thank you for joining us from so far away, and welcome. And we're all beginners. And it's amazing how our creatures are our greatest teachers. And just when we think we understand something, they bring to us something new for us to explore and discover. So thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see, Kathleen, I see that you typed in the chat that your Buster loves the bladder flow. So bravo. Does anyone else have any questions or testimonials about the bladder flow that they'd like to share? I can't see everybody all at once. So, oh, Carol, welcome.
So a friend of mine got a sheltered dog who was just high anxiety, just would nip at people and a little worked up and everything, but also kind of friendly. And so I was at her house one time, and he came and sat next to me on the couch. And I had never, this is actually my very first exposure to Jin Shinjitsu for animals, this right now. So I've never done it before, but instinctively, I gave the dog the bladder flow, and he just melted. And she came up and she said, "What are you doing to my dog?" Because he was just pretty much passed out, and just looked up at her, just so happy. It's like, wow, this is incredible. I didn't even know what I was doing, but it's so cool to see that.
Well, I believe you did. I think we have an innate intelligence, and I think our companions guide us to where our hands need to be for their benefit. And it's funny you say that, Carol, because I was actually at another practitioner's home, and her dog was jumping up on me, and she said, "Oh, I try and practice that." And immediately I went into the bladder flow, and the dog laid down on the floor and was sprawled out. And I think she was a little surprised.
That's great.
It's
Cute.
really amazing how the bladder flow just melts all of us, myself included. And Robin, I see that you're unmuted, and I was figuring you might like to have a little sharing too.
Well, one of the reasons I like the self-help bladder flow with adding 23 is that the regular flow to open 23 and 25 is a very powerful flow for releasing things the body's ready to let go of that you don't need, whether they're viruses, whether they're memories, whether they're pain, whatever that is. And so when you move down the animal, as you did in the picture on the horse, like from 12 to 23 and then 23 to 25, that's one of my favorite things to combine, because there's so much release and so much letting go added to doing the flow that I've seen like major things, especially with horses. They show their things more quickly, I think, but makes it even more powerful than it is on its own.
Wow, thank you. Robin, you also bring up a great point, and this is one thing I always like to talk about with horses, or any animal really. Their fur has so much hair. They have such a refined central nervous system. And much like children who are sensitive, they're very aware of their environment. They're very instinctual about their environment. And so when we go to place the hands, it's just a very light, gentle touch. And so, Jody, this kind of parlays into the question you're asking in the chat. She says, when doing the bladder flow, what have you found to be the duration of effect typically be? I'm a newbie and just curious. And so generally we hold anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. Sometimes the animal will walk away, and sometimes they just melt under our hands, and we know that we can stay longer. Generally, a session with an animal is anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 or 40 minutes. We can go up to an hour, but generally we don't give sessions longer than 50 or 60 minutes. And we find that just like children, infants, or elderly, anyone who has a critical illness or is in the hospital in some sort of critical condition, less is more. So maybe 15 or 20 minutes is all that's needed. And particularly with animals, they can bite or kick or let you know if you're heavy-handed or if you've been somewhere too long. But often they'll just get up and walk away. And so they're really great teachers for us about when enough is enough. So Robin, do you have anything that you would include or add?
Well, I would add to that, that when you treat a human can say, oh, I feel pressure, I feel tingling, I feel funny, I feel weirdness. But with an animal, part of walking away may just be, woo, what was that? So if they come back, you can continue. But if they don't, then you come later. And I can remember two animals that this stood out for me. When I was first learning this, I had an opportunity to go up for a weekend and work on chuck wagon horses. This guy had 26 thoroughbreds. And his wife and I, when she's no bigger than I am, were out in the field at 30 below and snow and stuff. And so we were throwing a lead over horse, both working on the horse. When the horse is done, take the lead off, go find another one. And so on about the 5th or 6th horse we had done, she took the lead off, went and found another horse. And that horse had walked away, and all of a sudden, and it's kind of hilly like this, and he's standing up on a hill and I'm kind of down, and I look up and there is this thoroughbred's head. And I thought, okay, you're not done, are you? So I don't even remember what I touched, but I did one hold, and he was standing, walked away and dug up some grass. So it was a good reminder for me. And the other was a dog that I had worked on who would come and go. And then all of a sudden he went across the room and he circled around and he thumped down. It was almost like a harumph. And I thought, okay, you're done. So you have to watch for their clues as to, you know, whether they're done or whether they're just taking a little break. But you can't overdo it. So it's, you know, they don't have quite as many stressors as we have. So we have to watch that.
Thank you, Robin. And sometimes they do need a little time to process. And so either we might step back or they might step away and return, just as Robin was talking about. And often some of the signs that a horse is relaxing might be licking or chewing, taking a deep breath, exhaling, the blinking of the eyes, the dropping of the head. Sometimes they'll drop a hip or a shoulder. You'll begin to see those signs of relaxation, but basically they tend to get quiet, or you can really tell that they're listening and processing. So those are some of the ways we know. And sometimes when you get a big release, it can be a big yawn or the stretching of the body. So it's really beautiful when you start to see the releases. Aunt Linda, hi.
Heidi, I did have Motel with me. I don't know if she says I'm done with you, but she loves Uncle Larry, so there she goes. But I was going to tell a story about Motel. I was, you know, I'm all that about being a horse trainer and everything, and I had Bella Rocky Hill out in the field, and she was like exuberant. She, you know, thought rearing up might be an answer, and it's like, no, I've got the halter on you. You're a youth horse. You aren't supposed to rear up. So I was getting like almost frustrated. And here comes Motel sauntering out to the field, and she says, hey, let me handle this. So I said, okay. And she jumps up on Belle and she just lays up there on her withers and said, see, just relax. So we just relaxed, and I led Belle on out to the field with the rest of the horses, and everybody was happy. But I just needed to slow down, and Mo saw me in trouble and came to my rescue.
I love it. And just so everybody knows, Motel is your kitty cat.
Yeah, she's Motel the midwife. She helps our horses when they're in foal, and she actually can jump on a belly and just held that pose throughout the foaling process. And she'll go out and jump on the horses all by herself. And if I'm riding and she thinks I ought to be done, she'll say, "Hey, let me up there with you." So
We
she's
need to
just
make
our,
a children's book about Motel
I have got to. We'll do that.
on the
So-
list. Beautiful. Thank you. That's my Aunt Linda from Kentucky, and she fostered my love of horses from the moment I could say right or left. It was on the back of a horse. So I grew up here in Kentucky riding and showing horses, and my husband and I breed American saddlebred show horses. So any other questions or sharing? I would like to mention that this study group is available the first and third Thursday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we would love to have you leave your email addresses in the chat so that we can send you the Zoom link in the future. Oh, I hear my Bodie barking in the background. I have Bodie and Stella Rose, 2 dogs here at home, and 2 kitties, Lindsay and Lovey. So it's a happy household. And I would like to mention that I also offer a free Jin Shin Jitsu self-help study group every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And anybody's welcome to come. I just need your email address in order to send you the Zoom link. And I just saw Terry Land put her email address into the chat. And Terry is one of our Jin Shin Jitsu organizers in Morristown, New Jersey. And Terry has invited me to teach a 3-day animal class. So any of you that are interested in getting your certification in Jin Shin Jitsu for you and your animal companions, I'll be in Morristown, New Jersey, teaching March 21st through the 23rd, which is a Tuesday through a Thursday in between 2 weekends, where I'm teaching a 5-day basic seminar in Morristown, New Jersey. Oh, and Debbie's jumping in. Debbie organizes with Terry in Morristown. And I just had a new class added. I'm teaching a 3-day animal class at the sanctuary at Rex's Ranch in Cave Creek, Arizona. So if you check out jinshinjitsuspiritmindbody.com and you go to my instructor page, you'll see how to register for both of those classes. So Robin, do you have any information that you'd like to share? Anything upcoming special projects that you're working on?
Well, I'm finding that people are not ready to gather, so I've been limited in some of the classes, but I'm working with a woman locally who's trying to pull all her horse friends together to set up a horse class. So we're hoping to have a 2-day class come up, maybe when it warms up a little bit. However, one of her friends has a heated arena and classroom, so we might be doing that. So I'll let everybody know when that comes up. Flights are still crazy up here. People are still getting lost and left behind, luggage, all that stuff. So there's a lot of hesitancy for people to travel and do that kind of stuff. But
we will eventually all be back in person again. And in the meantime, many of our faculty members are offering things like study groups and classes online. Adele, do you have anything coming up that we should mention? Or any recorded classes that students can view?
No, kind of in a little transition right this minute, but I did want to let folks know that all of these are available on replays on the YouTube. You can go and subscribe there, and then you can share them with folks. You can, if there's a specific flow you want to go back and review, you can find the collection of all my faculty right there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And
I'm wildly proud of these folks, in case you couldn't tell.
thank you. Such an honor and privilege to be able to share the art with animals and to be a member of all's faculty. So, Terry, I do see that you have your hand raised, and I want to give you an opportunity to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that Morristown, Debbie and I, along with Maryland organizers, we hold a monthly study group on the third Saturday or third Sunday of every month. And we are actually going through the book, doing each flow and finding relationships within that flow. And Justin McClure, he's really good at doing this. And if you want to join us, you're more than welcome to join us. We do it on Zoom. Actually, this Sunday, we're having our study group, and you would just email Morristown jsj@gmail.com, and I'll put it in there. If you're interested, we'll put you on the list. And what you would do is respond. I send an email out like 2 weeks prior, and you respond that you want to join us, and then we'll send you the link. So
Thank you, Terry. So many wonderful opportunities to study and learn with friends all over the world, thanks to modern technology. Any other remaining thoughts, questions, comments? Thank you all for participating this evening and for joining us. It's just really special and tremendous that we get to share this gentle, loving art, as Adele says, with so many others. And what a gift. Well, this feels like a nice resting place for us to end this evening.